Alright, Trekkies and Trekkers, it's time for the second episode of the day, which is Paradise Lost. In the aftermath of the planet-wide power outage, a state of emergency has been declared on Earth, and Starfleet security has a presence in every neighborhood on the planet. Captain Sisko and Odo are at Starfleet headquarters, and Sisko remarks on his discomfort with the situation. The more I read Starfleet's reports on the sabotage of the power relays, the more unanswered questions I have. No one's been able to establish how the changelings infiltrated planetary operations, or how they had the access codes and the know-how to disable every power relay on Earth. Odo then comes up with another question in need of an answer. Red Squad was beamed back to Starfleet Academy 26 minutes after the state of emergency was declared, unlike the rest of Starfleet. Upon learning that the Red Squad is composed of cadets, Odo reasons that Starfleet wanted them out of harm's way, only for Sisko to immediately point out that Red Squad was remobilized a short time later. In New Orleans, Joseph and Jake are reopening the restaurant, since Joseph is convinced that he's got plenty of customers. There are Starfleet troops on every block, after all. Back at Starfleet headquarters, Sisko, with Odo standing outside, contacts the Commandant of Starfleet Academy about the transporter record he found, and the Commandant immediately becomes guarded and asks if anyone else knows about it, specifically Admiral Layden. Sisko replies that he doesn't, and the Commandant orders Sisko to destroy the record. Playing along, Sisko tells him it'll immediately be taken care of, and the Commandant notes that despite his concerns, Red Squad performed their mission admirably. The call ends, and Odo notes that instead of answers, all they've got are a lot more questions. Sometime later, Sisko goes to New Orleans and is discussing his frame of mind with his father when Nog steps up to his table. It seems that Sisko wants to meet some of the members of Red Squad and wants Nog to make an introduction. However, Nog is willing to disclose any information, as the names of Red Squad's roster are supposed to be secret, and he worries that revealing a name could scupper his chances of getting into the group. Sisko tells Nog that he seems to be under the mistaken impression that he's asking a favor, which he isn't, and directly orders Nog to give him a name, which settles that. At Starfleet Academy, Sisko holds an interview with the one cadet Riley Shepard. After seeing the Red Squad have been briefed to expect that no record would be made of their activity, Shepard explains Red Squad's involvement with the power outage. In brief, they're the ones who did all the hands-on work to make it happen. Sisko goes back to New Orleans with Odo, and the two of them discuss what Sisko has learned. After ruling out Dominion involvement, since nothing has been accomplished through the incident except the fortification of Earth, and agreeing that Shepard can't be lying, with Sisko even giving a blood screening, which he passed, Sisko reluctantly agrees with Odo's belief that the state of emergency was engineered by a clique of Starfleet officers led by Layden, with the intent of staging a coup d'etat. Sisko and Odo go to Paris and take what information they have to fight over the president, George Inyo, who is skeptical and shocked. Odo points out that just after it was known that changelings had infiltrated the Alpha Quadrant, Layden came George Inyo recommending heavy security measures, a recommendation that was rejected at the time for being too severe. It seems that Layden used the conference bomb to try to get his security protocols authorized, and, dissatisfied at the limited power he was given, he and his supporters sabotaged the power grid to make a Dominion invasion appear imminent. Sisko also notes that, although it was an act of treason, Layden likely sees it as an act of patriotism, albeit an extreme one. George Inyo admits the accusation is plausible, but needs proof, and Sisko suggests seeing what happens if Layden is ordered to withdraw the troops he's deployed. If he refuses, that is the proof George Inyo needs. If he agrees, then Sisko admits he was wrong and will offer his resignation. George Inyo reminds Sisko and Odo that the public overwhelmingly supports the increased security measures, and if they try to scale it back against Layden's recommendations, it would be a political disaster with the potential to start a planet-wide riot. Sisko offers to bring irrefutable evidence of a plot, and George Inyo promises that with that, he would certainly put a stop to it and order Layden to resign. Back in New Orleans, Sisko is waiting at his father's restaurant for Nog and Cadet Shepard. Nog eventually arrives, without Shepard in tow. Apparently Shepard was nowhere to be found, along with the rest of Red Squad. The whole squad has apparently been sent on a training exercise. Just after making the announcement, Layden steps into the restaurant stating that Shepard and the rest of Red Squad would be returning to Earth anytime soon. Layden then orders Nog back to his quarters at the Academy. A private conversation ensues between Sisko and Layden, in which Layden admits to what he is doing, and that he involved Sisko because the credibility of the latter's field experience with the Dominion was vital to Layden's plan. Lena goes on to lecture Sisko about the importance of the chain of command and point out that he still needs Sisko's cooperation. Sisko refuses, and Lane orders back to Deep Space Nine, telling him he's not needed on Earth anymore. Sometime later, Sisko's outside with his thoughts when a man appearing to be Miles O'Brien, but who was actually a changeling, approaches him and claims that there are only 4 changelings on Earth, not counting Odo. He claims that 4 is more than enough, as the changelings don't fear their enemies as much as they are feared. It's this fear that will eventually destroy Starfleet. Promising the changelings have barely begun with their plans for Earth and the rest of the Alpha Quadrant, O'Brien's doppelganger leaves. After getting some advice from his father, Sisko contacts Karen Reese through a Bajoran frequency and starts putting a plan into motion. At Starfleet headquarters, Odo and Sisko start reviewing records of personnel transfers and discover that Layden has been a busy man, reassigning over 400 officers in the past 3 weeks, with each officer having served under Layden at some point. Further examination of the records reveals that another batch of transfers are to take effect the day before Josh Eno is due to make an important speech. With this proof, Sisko has a copy of the files and transfers them to his pad. He asks Odo to get Jake and Sisko off Earth to keep them safe, as he's visited by Benteen, who was just been promoted by Layden to captain of the USS Lakota. When Sisko dares Eno to deliver his evidence of the plot, he finds Admiral Layden waiting for him. Sisko's given a blood screening and turns up a false positive. Sisko throws his pad on Jerish Eno's desk, and as Starfleet security officers place him under arrest. Sisko is sent back to Starfleet headquarters and placed in detention, and from the other side of his holding cell's force field, Layden promises that Sisko will be freed in a few days after the president's speech, or rather, Layden's speech. He intends to remove Jerish Eno from office and take control of Earth for himself, for however long it takes to eliminate the changeling threat, years if necessary. Sisko knows that once Layden sees his power, he'll likely never give it up. Later, when security tech comes to the brig to take blood screenings, Odo appears and disables the guards, as well as the tag whose card he'd hitched a ride on in some other form. While bypassing the force field controls, Odo explains that the random opening and closing of the Bajoran wormhole, which precipitated the current phase of the crisis, was caused by the communications relay Gamma Quadrant being fixed with a subspace modulator. Also, the DS9 crew have arrested the individual responsible, Lieutenant Arriaga, who was willing to testify his part in the plot and is on the way to Earth aboard the USS Defiant. Sisko orders Odo to warn Jerish Eno and goes to his office carrying a phaser he took from one of the disabled guards. Sisko has Layden's office demanding his resignation from Starfleet and informs him of Arriaga's impending arrival. Layden is amused but unimpressed. It turns out the Lakota is ordered to intercept the Defiant. Its crew has been told that the Defiant is crewed by changelings. On the Defiant, which is commanded by Worf, the Lakota crew hails and demand that the ship drop its shields and prepare to be boarded as the ship raises shields and charges weapons. At Layden's office, Sisko tries to convince Layden that the other Federation worlds will never accept overthrowing their legitimately elected president or establishing of what will essentially be a dictatorship on Earth. It could even cause a civil war. Having the Lakota fire on the Defiant is the first step down that dark path, but Layden refuses to cancel the order. On the Defiant, the crew wonder if the Lakota are bluffing. However, once they enter weapons range, they are fired upon by the Excelsior-class ship. Chief O'Brien knows that the Lakota seems to have had its weapons upgraded and is unwilling to risk dropping shields to cloak and ensure they can outrun the Lakota. The crew's only option is to fight their way out. They notice the irony that Sisko had originally been more interested in engineering than he was at command, until Layden made him first officer, taught him everything he knew about being a leader, but noticed that he didn't teach Ben about loyalty. Sisko balks at this, feeling his last person to speak to him about loyalty when he's broken his oath to the Federation, lied to the people of Earth and ordered one of its ships to fire on another. Just then, Benteen hails Layden, and the Admiral, still phaser point, answers. Benteen informs him they've been unable to stop the Defiant due to their blade of armor, the equipping of which isn't on the record to Starfleet operations. Layden amends his orders so that the Defiant isn't to be disabled, but destroyed at any cost. Benteen is shocked, and Sisko pleads with her not to kill the Starfleet officers suffering on the Defiant, says she knows there's no changelings on board. Bentine has transmission after later reminds her of her orders. Both the Divine and Lakota have been badly damaged, and a good hit from either will finish the other off. The Divine crew are unwilling to use deadly force against the other crew. It seems the Lakota crew feel the same as the ship has powered down its weapons and hails the Defiant. Sisko is contacted by Worf, who tells him the Lakota is escorting the Defiant to Earth. However, both ships suffered a number of casualties. Lando then tells Sisko that talking to a ship from his office was a mistake, as no security knows he's here, and he'll never make it past the door. But Sisko says that it doesn't matter because by now, Odo presented his evidence to Tarish Inyo to take down Layden. His plot is over. Layden still refuses to accept this, tells Sisko he has enough loyal officers left to make a fight of it. Sisko tells him he'll be fighting Starfleet now as well, and Bentine was the closest ally, so he abandoned him, so it'll only be a matter of time before the others do too. Finally accepting he's been beaten, Layden takes off his insignia pins and leaves his office to be arrested, but hopes that Sisko isn't making a mistake. The state of emergency is soon lifted, and Earth slowly begins to turn to normal. Odo points out to everyone that there are still changelings on Earth, but no one is willing to change the way they live, to let them change the way they live. If the Dominion wants to destroy Earth, they have to do it themselves. With that, Ben and Jake say a fun farewell to Joseph and, with Odo, begin their trip back to Deep Space Nine, while Joseph then opens the restaurant and welcomes in customers as life returns to normal on Earth. Whew, well, that's good. So anyway, let's take a look at some trivia surrounding this episode. Red Squad was seen again in the 6th season episode Valiant, in which David Drew Gallagher reprised his role of Riley Shepard. Susan Gibney, who plays Bentine, previously played Dr. Leah Brahms in Booby Trap and Galaxy's Child from Next Generation. She was also considered for the role of Catherine Janeway on Star Trek Voyager. This is the only episode of the series where Sisko wears the Star Trek Next Generation style uniform for the duration. The only time he's seen where his regular uniform is in the recap of the previous episode. This is the last episode to be directed by Areza Badiyi. The events of this episode, a Starfleet admiral attempting a military coup, are similar to the plot of Pocket TOS Dreadnought, a novel by Diane Carey, written about a decade prior to DS9's production. The idea was also part of the original concept for the early TNG episode Conspiracy. The names of the former crew members of the USS Okinawa are all named after characters from Joseph Heller's famous 1961 novel Catch-22. We're saying that Bartlett and Ramsey are dead, sir, maybe an indirect reference to the 1963 war film The Great Escape, as the two leaders of the escaping Allied POWs were Squadron Leader Roger Bartlett, played by Sir Richard Attenborough, and GB Captain Ramsey, played by James Donald. A reference to number 47 is in the text of the transfer orders for Red Squad, which designates them as Cadet Training Squadron 47. Additionally, Sisko states that they returned to base after sabotaging the power relay at 1947 hours. Excluding the recap from Homefront and kerosene, an officer desktop through Sisko's desktop monitor, this is the third out of 4 DS9 episodes that don't have any scenes set on the station, save for the opening credits. The other are Past Tense Part 1, Part 2, and Children of Time. Quark does not appear in this episode. So overall, as the conclusion to what happened in the previous episode, this episode definitely has a lot going on, and it's good that Layden's little coup d'etat did not work out, so yay! So overall, I give Paradise Lost 4 warp cores out of 5. Anyway, tune in a bit as we take a look at the final episode of the day, Crossfire. So, until then, live long and prosper, everybody.